was a mighty nation, blessed above all of creation. It was a rare and precious pearl, conceived in faith and liberty, home of the brave, land of the free. It was the envy of the world. But this shining city on a hill has turned from the Creator's will and let evil take control. Now the reckless men who lead them want to strip away their freedom and to steal their very soul. Now it's smoke and mirrors, switching bait, criticize and confiscate and let the guilty walk away. In this once righteous, godly nation, in the halls of education, they forbid a child to pray. They say we need to spread the wealth. They pretend to guard the health of the feeble and the poor, while the hand they hold behind their back confuses and conceals the fact that the wolf is at the door. There's an unseen hand that pulls the string and makes his little puppets dance to every song he sings as the night rolls in on a rising tide. Look beyond the shadows, behold a pale horse rise. They claim to seek a new world order, nations without borders, but don't believe the lie.
Resurrect Republic, Truth Radio broadcast on the Republic Broadcasting Network. I'm your host, Tom Lacovara Stewart. I'm joined by Lorri Anderson tonight. I want to start off tonight. We have a lot of things to talk about. A federal judge that smacked down the assault ban, some laws that show fraud and some that show remedy. I also want to, at some point, speak about the validity of the 13th Amendment, and among some other things that I'm sure Lorri would want to be talking about. But I want to share something with you, just to provoke your mind just a little bit. Go ahead and roll.
This is Aldous Huxley, a man haunted by a vision of hell on earth. A searing social critic, Mr. Huxley, 27 years ago, wrote Brave New World, a novel that predicted that someday the entire world would live under a frightful dictatorship. Today, Mr. Huxley says that his fictional world of horror is probably just around the corner for all of us. We'll find out why in a moment.
The Mike Wallace Interview, presented by the American Broadcasting Company in association with the Fund for the Republic, brings you a special television series discussing the problems of survival and freedom in America.
Good evening. I'm Mike Wallace. Tonight's guest, Aldous Huxley, is a man of letters, as disturbing as he is distinguished. Born in England, now a resident of California, Mr. Huxley has written some of the most electric novels and social criticism of this century. He's just finished a series of essays called Enemies of Freedom, in which he outlines and defines some of the threats to our freedom in the United States. And Mr. Huxley, right off the bat, let me ask you this. As you see it, who and what are the enemies of freedom here in the United States?
Well, I don't think you can say who in the United States. I don't think there are any sinister persons deliberately trying to rob people of their freedom. But I do think, first of all, that there are a number of impersonal forces which are pushing in the direction of less and less freedom. And I also think that there are a number of technological devices which anybody who wishes to use can use to accelerate this process of going away from freedom, of imposing control.
Well, what are these forces and these devices, Mr. Huxley?
I should say that there are two main impersonal forces. The first of them is not exceedingly important in the United States at the present time, though very important in other countries. This is the force which in general terms can be called overpopulation, the mounting pressure of population pressing upon existing resources. This, of course, is an extraordinary thing. Something is happening which has never happened in the world's history before. I mean, let's just take a a simple fact that between the time of the birth of Christ and the landing of the Mayflower, the population of the Earth doubled. It rose from 250 million to probably 500 million. Today, the population of the Earth is rising at such a rate that it will double in half a century.
Well, why should overpopulation work to diminish our freedoms?
Well, in a number of ways. I mean, the experts in the field, like Harrison Brown, for example, pointed out that in the underdeveloped countries, actually the standard of living is at present falling, that people have less to eat and less goods per capita than they had 50 years ago. And as the position of these countries, the economic position, becomes more and more precarious, obviously the central government has to take over more and more responsibility for keeping the ship of state on an even keel. And then, of course, you're likely to get social unrest under such conditions, with again an intervention of the central government. So that I think one sees here a pattern which seems to be pushing very strongly towards a totalitarian regime. And unfortunately, as in all these underdeveloped countries, the only highly organized political party is the Communist Party, it looks rather as though they will be the heirs to this unfortunate process, that they will step into the position of power.
Well, then, ironically enough, one of the greatest forces against communism in the world, the Catholic Church, according to your thesis, would seem to be pushing us directly into the hands of the communists because they are against birth control.
Well, I think this strange paradox probably is true. There is it's an extraordinary situation, actually. I mean, one has to look at it, of course, from a biological point of view. The whole essence of biological life on Earth is a question of balance, and what we have done is to practice death control in a most intensive manner without balancing this with the birth control at the other end. Consequently, the birth rates remain as high as they were, and death rates have fallen substantially.
All right, then. So much for the time being, anyway, for overpopulation. Another force that is diminishing our freedoms.
Well, another force which I think is very strongly operative in this country is the force of what may be called over-organization. As technology becomes more and more complicated, it becomes necessary to have more and more elaborate organizations, more hierarchical organizations. And incidentally, the advance of technology has been accompanied by an advance in the science of organization. It's now possible to make organizations on a larger scale than was ever possible before. And so that you have more and more people living their lives out as subordinates in these hierarchical systems controlled by bureaucracies, either the bureaucracies of big business or the bureaucracies of big government.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, the devices that you were talking about, are there specific devices or methods of communication which diminish our freedoms in addition to overpopulation and over-organization?
Well, there are certainly devices which can be used in this way. I mean, let us take, after all, a piece of very recent and very painful history is the propaganda used by Hitler, which was incredibly effective. I mean, what were Hitler's methods? Hitler used terror on the one kind, brute force on the one hand, but he also used a very efficient form of propaganda, which he was using every modern device at that time. He didn't have TV, but he had the radio, which he used to the fullest extent, and was able to impose his will on an immense mass of people. I mean, the Germans were a highly educated people.
Well, we're aware of all this, but how do you equate Hitler's use of propaganda with the way that propaganda, if you will, is used, let us say, here in the United States? Are you suggesting that there is a parallel?
Needless to say, it's not being used in this way now, but the point is, it seems to me, that there are methods at present available, methods superior in some respects to Hitler's method, which could be used in a bad situation. I mean, what I feel very strongly is that we mustn't be caught by surprise by our own advancing technology. This has happened again and again in history. technology has advanced, and this changes social conditions, and suddenly people have found themselves in a situation which they didn't foresee and doing all sorts of things they didn't really want to do.
Well, now, what do you mean? Do you mean that we develop our television, but we don't know how to use it correctly? Is that the point that you're making?
Well, at present, the television, I think, is being used quite harmlessly. It's being used, I think, I would feel it's being used too much to distract everybody all the time. But, I mean, imagine, which must be the situation in all communist countries, where the television, where it exists, is always saying the same thing the whole time. It's always driving along. It's not creating a wide front of distraction. It's creating a one-pointed drumming in of a single idea all the time. It's obviously an immensely powerful instrument.
So you're talking about the potential misuse of the instrument.
Exactly. We have, after all technology is in itself morally neutral. These are just powers which can either be used well or ill. It's the same thing with atomic energy. We can either use it to blow ourselves up, or we can use it as a substitute for the coal and the oil which are running out.
You've even written about the use of drugs in this light.
Well, now, this is a very interesting subject. I mean, in this book that you mentioned, this book of mine, Brave New World, I postulated a substance called soma, which was a very versatile drug. It would make people feel happy in small doses. It would make them see visions in medium doses, and it would send them to sleep in large doses. Well, I don't think such a drug exists now, nor do I think it will ever exist, but we do have drugs which will do some of these things, and I think it's quite on the cards that we may have drugs which will profoundly change our mental states without doing us any harm. I mean, this is the pharmacological revolution which has taken place, that we have now powerful mind-changing drugs which, physiologically speaking, are almost costless. I mean, they are not like opium or like cocaine, which do change the state of mind, but leave terrible results physiologically and morally.
Mr. Huxley, in your new essays, you state that these various enemies of freedom are pushing us toward a real-life, brave new world, and you say that it's awaiting us just around the corner. First of all, can you detail for us what life in this brave new world which you fear so much, or what life might be like?
Well, to start with, I think this kind of the dictatorship of the future, I think will be very unlike the dictatorships which we've been familiar with in the immediate past. I mean, take another book prophesying the future, which was a very remarkable book, George Orwell's 1984. Mm-hmm. Well, this book was written at the height of the Stalinist regime and just after the Hitler regime. And there he foresaw a dictatorship using entirely the methods of terror, the methods of physical violence. Now, I think what is going to happen in the future is the dictators will find, as the old saying goes, that you can do everything with bayonets except sit on them. That if you want to preserve your power indefinitely, you have to get the consent of the ruled. And this they will do partly by drugs, as I foresaw in Brave New World, partly by these new techniques of propaganda. They will do it by bypassing the sort of rational side of man and appealing to his subconscious and his deeper emotions and his physiology even, and so making him actually love his slavery. I mean, I think this is the danger, that actually people may be in some ways happy under the new regime, but they will be happy in a situation where they oughtn't to be happy.
But let me ask you this. You're talking about a world that could take place within the confines of a totalitarian state. Let's become more immediate, more urgent about it. We believe, anyway, that we live in democracy here in the United States. Do you believe that this brave new world that you talk about could, let's say, in the next quarter century, the next century, could come here to our shores?
I think it could. I mean, that's why I feel it's so extremely important here and now to start thinking about these problems, not to let ourselves be taken by surprise by the new advances in technology. I mean, for example, in regard to the use of the drugs, we know there's enough evidence now for us to be able, on the basis of this evidence and using a certain amount of creative imagination, to foresee the kind of uses which could be made by people of bad will with these things, and to attempt to forestall this. And in the same way, I think with these other methods of propaganda, we can foresee and we can do a good deal to forestall. I mean, after all, the price of freedom is eternal vigilance.
You write in Enemies of Freedom, you write specifically about the United States. You say this, writing about American political campaigns. You say, all that is needed is money and a candidate who can be coached to look sincere. Political principles and plans for specific action have come to lose most of their importance. The personality of the candidate, the way he is projected by the advertising experts, are the things that really matter.
Well, this is, during the last campaign, there was a great deal of this kind of statement by the advertising managers of the campaign parties, this idea that the candidates had to be merchandised as though they were soap or toothpaste, and that you had to depend entirely on the personality. I mean, the personality is important, but there are certainly people with an extremely amiable personality, particularly on TV, who might not necessarily be very good in positions of political trust.
Well, do you feel that men like Eisenhower, Stevenson, Nixon, with knowledge of forethought, were trying to pull the wool over the eyes of the American public?
No, but they were being advised by powerful advertising agencies who were making campaigns of a quite different kind from what had been made before. And I think we shall see probably all kinds of new devices coming into the picture. I mean, for example, this thing which got a good deal of publicity last autumn, subliminal projection. I mean, as it stands, this thing, I think, is of no menace to us at the moment. But I was talking the other day to one of the people who has done most experimental work in the psychological laboratory with this, who was saying precisely this, that it is not at the moment a danger, but once you've established a principle that something works, you can be absolutely sure that the technology of it is going to improve steadily. And I mean, his view of the subject was that, well, maybe they will use it to some extent in the 1960 campaign, but they will probably use it a good deal and much more effectively in the 1964 campaign, because this is the kind of rate at which technology advances.
And we'll be persuaded to vote for a candidate that we do not know that we are being persuaded to vote for.
Exactly. I mean, this is the rather alarming feature, that you're being persuaded below the level of choice and reason.
In regard to advertising, which you mentioned just a little ago, in your writing, particularly in Enemies of Freedom, you attack Madison Avenue, which controls most of our television and radio advertising, newspaper advertising, and so forth. Why do you consistently attack the advertising agency?
Well, no, I think that advertisement plays a very necessary role, but the danger, it seems to me, in a democracy is this. I mean, what does a democracy depend on? A democracy depends on the individual voter making an intelligent and rational choice for what he regards as his enlightened self-interest in any given circumstance. But what these people are doing, I mean, what both for their particular purposes, for selling goods, and the dictatorial propagandists are doing, is to try to bypass the rational side of man and to appeal directly to these unconscious forces below the surface, so that you are, in a way, making nonsense of the whole democratic procedure, which is based on conscious choice on rational grounds.
Of course. Well, maybe you have just answered this next question, because in your essay you write about television commercials, not just political commercials, but television commercials as such, and how, as you put it, today's children walk around singing beer commercials and toothpaste commercials, and then you link this phenomenon in some way with the dangers of a dictatorship. Now, could you spell out the connection, or how do you feel that you have done so sufficiently?
Well, I mean, here, this whole question of children, I think, is a terribly important one, because the children are quite clearly much more suggestible than the average grown-up. And, again, suppose that for one reason or another, all the propaganda was in the hands of one or very few agencies, you would have an extraordinarily powerful force playing on these children, who after all are going to grow up and be adults quite soon. I do think that this is not an immediate threat, but it remains a possible threat. And
you said something to the effect in your essay that the children of Europe used to be called cannon fodder, and here in the United States they are television and radio fodder.
Well, after all, you can read in the trade journals the most lyrical accounts of how necessary it is to get hold of the children, because then they will be loyal brand buyers later on. Mm-hmm. But, again, you just translate this into political terms. The dictator says they will be loyal ideology buyers when they're grown up.
We hear so much about brainwashing as used by the communists. Do you see any brainwashing other than that which we've just been talking about that is used here in the United States? Other forms of brainwashing?
Not in the form that has been used in China and in Russia, because this is essentially the application of propaganda methods, the most violent kind, to individuals. It's not a shotgun method like the advertising method. It's a way of getting hold of the person and playing both on his physiology and his psychology till he really breaks down, and then you can implant a new idea in his head. I mean, the descriptions of the methods are really blood-curdling when you read them, and not only the methods applied to political prisoners, but the methods applied, for example, to the training of the young communist administrators and missionaries. They receive an incredibly tough kind of training, which causes about 25% of them to break down or commit suicide, but produces 75% of completely one-pointed fanatics.
The question, of course, that keeps coming back to my mind is this. Obviously, politics in themselves are not evil. Television is not in itself evil. Atomic energy is not evil. And yet you seem to fear that it will be used in an evil way. Why is it that the right people will not, in your estimation, use them? Why is it that the wrong people will use these various devices and for the wrong motives?
Well, I think one of the reasons is that these are all instruments for obtaining power, and obviously the passion for power is one of the most moving passions that exist in man, and after all, all democracies are based on the proposition that power is very dangerous and that it's extremely important not to let any one man or any one small group have too much power for too long a time. After all, what are the British and American constitutions except devices for limiting power? And all these new devices are extremely efficient instruments for the imposition of power by small groups over larger masses.
Well, you ask this question yourself in Enemies of Freedom. I'll put your own question back to you. You ask this. In an age of accelerating overpopulation, of accelerating overorganization, and ever more efficient means of mass communication, how can we preserve the integrity and reassert the value of the human individual? You put the question. Now here's your chance to answer it, Mr. Huxley.
Well, this is obviously, first of all, it's a question of education. I think it's terribly important to insist on individual values. I mean, there is a tendency, as you probably read a book by White, The Organization Man, a very interesting, valuable book, I think, where he speaks about the new type of group morality, group ethic, which speaks about the group as though the group was somehow more important than the individual. But this seems, as far as I'm concerned, to be in contradiction with what we know about the genetical makeup of human beings, that every human being is unique. And it is, of course, on this genetical basis that the whole idea of the value of freedom is based. And I think it's extremely important for us to stress this in all our educational life. And I would say it's also very important to teach people to be on their guard against the sort of verbal booby traps into which they're always being led, to analyze the kind of things that are said to them. Well, I think there is this whole educational side, and I think there are many more things that one could do to strengthen people and to make them more aware of what was being done.
You're a prophet of decentralization.
Well, yes, if this is feasible. It's one of the tragedies, it seems to me. I mean, many people have been talking about the importance of decentralization in order to give back to the voter a sense of direct power. I mean, the voter in an enormous electorate feels quite impotent, and his vote seems to count for nothing. This is not true where the electorate is small and where he is dealing with a group which he can manage and understand. And if one can, as Jefferson, after all, suggested, break up the units into smaller and smaller units, and so get a real self-governing democracy.
Well, that was all very well in Jefferson's day, but how can we revamp our economic system and decentralize and at the same time meet militarily and economically the tough challenge of a country like Soviet Russia?
Well, I think the answer
now
to
this
that
is where it gets very interesting to me.
The production, industrial production, is of two kinds. I mean, there are some kinds of industrial production which obviously need the most tremendously high centralization, like the making of automobiles, for example. But there are many other kinds where you could decentralize quite easily and probably quite economically, and that you would then have this kind of decentralized life. After all, you begin to see it now if you travel through the South, this decentralized textile industry which is springing up there.
Mr. Huxley, let me ask you this, quite seriously. Is freedom necessary?
As far as I'm concerned, it is, yes.
Why? Is it necessary for a productive society?
Yes, I should say it is. I mean, a genuinely productive society. I mean, I think you could produce plenty of goods without much freedom, but I think the whole sort of creative life of man is ultimately impossible without a considerable measure of individual freedom, that initiative, creation, all these things which we value, and I think value properly, are impossible without a large measure of freedom.
Well, Mr. Huxley, take a look again at the country which is in the stance of our opponent anyway it would seem to be there, Soviet Russia. It is strong and getting stronger economically, militarily. At the same time, it's developing its art forms pretty well. It seems not unnecessarily to squelch the creative urge among its people, and yet it is not a free society.
It's not a free society, but here is something very interesting, that those members of the society, like the scientists who are doing the creative work, are given far more freedom than anybody else. I mean, it's a privileged aristocratic society in which, provided that they don't poke their noses into political affairs, these people are given a great deal of prestige, a considerable amount of freedom, and a lot of money. I mean, this is a very interesting fact about the new Soviet
Anyway,
regime.
we'll be back after a few words from our sponsors, where we'll be talking about a lot of things coming up with Lorri Anderson and Tom Lacovara Stewart, Resurrect the Republic.
This is the most transparent administration in history.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AROutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AROutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
Hi, my name is Chris. Since the 1970s, I have been actively making products available that support good health. What makes my juices flow is helping mankind get healthy. Today, I'm going to tell you about a product that will help your juices to flow. I am excited to recommend Dr. Miller's Holy Tea to you. Even if we are eating a clean diet, these impurities are entering our bodies. Holy Tea moves these poisons that are creating havoc with our health out of our bowels. It works on the whole digestive system. The 5 tasty herbs are combined to provide an amazing detoxifying and healing tea that will rid your body of the pollutants and soothe your digestive tract, and in some cases, help you lose weight. It is critical for our health to move all of the environmental toxins from our bodies. The Holy Tea can do that. As a hydrocolon therapist, remember, with every BM, you're supporting RBN. www.holytea.org. 800-326-2001.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
You, your husband, your wife, your children, we all need food. And with dozens of food storage companies buying up airtime all over radio, it's hard for you to know which company you can actually trust. Hey folks, John Stadtmiller here. We at RBN understand, which is why I personally searched out a storable food company and one with similar core values to us here at RBN and of course you, the listener. Well, I found such a company. I'd like to introduce you to Numana Food Storage. Numana Food Storage, highly nutritious, GMO-free, contains no aspartame, no high-fructose corn syrup, has no chemical preservatives or soy, and Numana Food Storage has a 25-year shelf life. To back up my claims, we've made Numana Food Storage the exclusive food sponsor of RBN. Call 888-597-0775, 888-597-0775. Order online at numanarepublic.com. That's NUMANNA Republic.com. Food storage you'll love to eat.
Welcome back. Resurrect the Republic Truth Radio broadcast on the Republic Broadcasting Network. You can go to rtrtruthmedia.blogspot.com. This is the last 2 minutes of Aldous Huxley. I want you to hear this. This is really important stuff.
Don't poke their noses into political affairs. These people are given a great deal of prestige, a considerable amount of freedom, and a lot of money. I mean, this is a very interesting fact about the new Soviet regime. And I think what we're going to see is a people on the whole with very little freedom, but with an oligarchy on top, enjoying a considerable measure of freedom and a very high standard of living.
And the people down below, the epsilons down below,
enjoying very little.
And you think that that kind of situation can long endure?
I think it can certainly endure much longer than a situation in which everybody is kept down. Because, I mean, they can certainly get their technological and scientific results on such a basis.
Well, the next time that I talk to you then, perhaps we should investigate further the possibility of the establishment of that kind of a society, where the drones work for the queen bees up above.
Well, but yes, but I must say I still believe in democracy. If we can make the best of the creative activities of the people on top, plus those of the people on the bottom, so much the better.
Mr. Huxley, I surely thank you for spending this half hour with us, and I wish you Godspeed, sir.
Thank you.
Aldous Huxley finds himself these days
rather interesting. Now, Aldous Huxley, there will be in the next generation or so a pharmacological method of making people love their servitude and producing dictatorship without tears, so to speak. Producing a kind of painless concentration camp for entire societies so that people, in fact, have their liberties taken away from them, but will rather enjoy it because they will be distracted from any desire to rebel by propaganda or brainwashing enhanced by pharmacological methods. And this seems to be the final revolution. Aldous Huxley, the Tavistock Group. And by the way, Huxley's brother Julian was head of the United Nations UNESCO, giving him access to the policy and planning papers drawn up in the think tanks and research institutes. Lorri, I'm going to turn this over to you now. You have some stuff for us. Go ahead on.
Sure. And hi, everybody. It's so good to be with you tonight.
Sorry about that, folks. We had a little bit of a hiccup. That's what happens, I suppose. Sorry about that. Lorri, are you with me? You lose Lorri? All right, go to commercial or something, man. We need to regroup here. This is I'm at.
There was a mighty nation, blessed above all of creation. It was a rare and precious pearl, conceived in faith and liberty, home of the brave, land of the free. It was the envy of the world. But this shining city on a hill has turned from the Creator's will and let evil take control. Now the reckless men who lead them want to strip away their freedom and to steal their very soul. Now it's smoke and mirrors, switching bait, criticize and confiscate and let the guilty walk away. In this once righteous, godly nation, in the halls of education, they forbid a child to pray. They say we need to spread the wealth. They pretend to guard the health of the feeble and the poor, while the hand they hold behind their backs confuses and conceals the fact that the wolf is at the door. There's an unseen hand that pulls a string. It makes his little puppets dance to every song he sings as the night rolls in on a rising tide. Look beyond the shadows, behold a pale horse ride. They claim to seek a new world order, nations without borders, but don't believe the lie. Even in this wealthy nation, it could come down to starvation in the twinkling of an eye. They tell us there will soon be peace, our lives will be an endless feast, but they lead us toward the dark. In the distance sabers rattle, and the armies train for battle as the beast prepares his mark. There's an unseen hand that pulls a string and makes his little puppets dance to any song you sing as the night rolls in on the rising tide. Look beyond the shadows, behold a pale horse ride. It's time for every righteous man to step up tall, take a stand. There is so little time. For if we fear and hesitate, soon it will be too late. We're the last hope of mankind. Time hurries on, the shadows fall, the hand is writing on the wall. But even now, there's still a chance. For if the ones called by God's name repent of sin and seek his face, he will hear and heal the land. There's an unseen hand reaching from above, and a gentle voice that beckons to the shelter of his love. Come home, my wayward child.
Resurrect the Republic, Truth Radio broadcast on the Republic Broadcasting Network. I'm your host, Tom Lacovara Stewart, and I'm joined by Lorri Anderson. Well, that was very interesting. We just got knocked off. We apologize for the technical difficulties, but it seems like we seem to be back. Okay.
You know, this must mean we're doing something right, Tom, because over 150 files disappeared off of my computer as everything completely wiped out.
Wow, that's not cool.
Yeah. Good thing I have backup. Thank you, trolls, but I'm smart enough for that. Just saying. Good try, though. Well,
Resurrect the Republic was under attack for a while. There's some damage got done. I lost over 100 videos, long story. But anyway, when we relaunch, things are going to be a lot better.
Right. Absolutely. And you know what, Tom, I'm not even mad at them. Let me tell you. This is the message for the trolls. I'm praying for you. God bless you. And I mean that sincerely, because you know what? All you're doing is telling me that we are exposing exactly what we need to be exposing. Thank you very much for confirming that for us. And as I was saying before they tried to wipe us out, in 2013, and this went off of what you were playing earlier, Tom, the foreignpolicy.com had did an article about all the way back in 2013 about the U.S. repealing the propaganda ban, spreading government-made news to Americans. And many people don't realize that's connected with that NDAA. It's connected with the Smith-Mundt Act. You know,
if you look at individuals like Huxley. Now, the reason I played him is because he's got like his brother who was part of UNESCO, and he's got United Nations ties. I look at what he presented not so much as someone who could see what was coming, but more or less probably someone who was told what was coming.
Right. And the crazy thing is individuals, a lot of individuals don't know our government has been really heavily propagandizing us. You remember the quote unquote the sequester, I'm sure, when all the shutdowns were going on, or the quote unquote shutdown. Well, they got $650 million for media, at that time. So I wanted to just, remind people, look that up. Look about the Smith-Mundt Act and about the U.S. Repealing the propaganda ban and the government in the United States of America propagandizing our people. I mean, we know they do it, but many people don't realize it's linked to that. So as my computer, I have some good news and I have some funny news, like I've been really trying to do for everybody each time I get on, because we always need a smile on our face. I really, really believe. So one of the things that I want to discuss, if I can get it, one of the things to pull up is a good news for Second Amendment supporters. And when I say Second Amendment supporters, let me be clear. The Second Amendment gives you no right to anything. All it does is limit the federal government from being able to touch your already unalienable right, the right that you were born with from the time you took your first breath. So let's make that clear. But there was a federal judge that struck down the assault weapons ban and firearm registration and upheld the open carry. And that is amazing. And to me, reading this article, it's in Breitbart.com. It was posted on October the 5th, and it says, with one fell swoop, federal judge Ramona Manglona, chief judge of the U.S. District Court for the Northern Mariana Islands, has struck down the Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands CNMI ban on assault weapons and firearm registration requirements while upholding the constitutionality of open carrying firearms. Now, I'm not going to go over this entire article because we have a lot to cover, but I want to tell you, Murphy, or Paul Murphy, is the individual that actually brought this to the court. He is a veteran who served honorably on active duty in Iraq and Afghanistan as a U.S. Army Ranger, and he filed the suit to validate his constitutional right to keep and bear arms for self-defense. Still defending the Republic. Thank you, sir. And this is exactly what he challenged. He challenged, number one, the requirement that he obtain a license and register his weapons. Number two, the restrictions on how he may store his weapons at home. Number three, the ban on large capacity magazines, or LCMs. Number four, the ban on rifles in calibers above .223. Number five, the ban on assault weapons. Number six, the ban on transporting operable firearms. And number seven, the $1,000 excise tax imposed on handguns. Now, why should this be of interest to people within the continental United States? I'm going to tell you why. This is almost exact wording as the SAFE Act in New York City and New York State, so pay close attention. Mongolia ruled against the registration requirement, the ban on rifles of greater than .223 caliber, the assault quote-unquote assault weapons ban, and restrictions on transporting operable firearms. Her decision against the restrictions on transporting operable firearms upholds the right to carry openly. Court documents stress that the CNMI is bound by the Constitution, treaties, and laws of the United States. This means that constitutional provisions covering civil rights and liberties in the United States apply equally in CNMI, and this includes the Second Amendment. Mongolia ruled against firearm registration, which is excellent because, as you well know, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of individuals in New York know this. When you do your background check in New York, they register you in New York. So you're on a list when you do that. So the court documents, it says, Mongolia ruled against firearm registration. She ruled that CNMI's ban on rifles with calibers greater than .223 burdens the core Second Amendment right to armed self-defense and must fall. She also struck down the assault weapons ban as regards the following rifle accessories. You're going to love this, Tom, and everybody else. Everybody else is going to love this. Number one, pistol grips that protrude beneath the action. Number two, thumb hole stocks. Number three, folding or telescoping stocks. Number four, flare launchers. Number five, flash suppressors. Number six, forward pistol grips. And that is a quote. She explained the decision against the, quote, assault weapons ban by stressing the possibility that having forward grips and other accessories might actually make it easier to shoot a firearm more accurately, thereby limiting the danger of stray or misplaced rounds. Mongolia ruled against CNMI SAFE, and it is all capital, just like the SAFE Act in New York, SAFE gun laws that limit open carry, declaring that, quote, the Second Amendment secures a right to bear arms for self-defense in public, unquote. She observed that because SAFE completely destroys that right, it is unconstitutional regardless of the level of scrutiny applied, and the court must strike it down. She concurred with President that find certain, quote, limitations on carry to be constitutional, but observe that being subject to limitations does not translate into being, quote, subject to elimination. I want to personally, on live air, thank this judge for doing the right thing. God bless you, ma'am.
Amen to that.
So this, of course, like I said, this is a federal judge. So as you well know, what happens, Tom, when it's been ruled by a federal judge? The other courts, what? So everybody within the continental United States, make sure you get your copy of this. Get the copy of the actual court case. Use it proudly.
Wow.
Because this is huge. Now, I want to say something. We're going to have a little bit of more amusing things. And Tom, I'm going to go there. I've got to go there. I have to go there, okay?
Oh, I knew it was coming.
You knew it was coming. The listeners know it's coming every time that I get on the show, especially once a troll hits me and tries to make sure that I don't get this out here.
All right. What you got?
So, this is what I have. First of all, most of you who are on here, we already have established, we know the difference between de jure and de facto, so make no mistake. We're not under any illusion whoever is the CEO of the United States is going to change anything. However, we're going to do some fact-checking for our people, and feel free to share this show. Share it far and wide. All right, so first of all, earlier the week we had a video that was produced that allegedly about Donald Trump and his use of the word of quote-unquote vulgar language. Okay, I am a female, and I'm going to tell you right now, I am under no illusion that men, when they get in there and they're talking privately, that they don't talk mess. I've heard worse language from teenagers. Okay, however,
that's the truth.
And I mean, that's the truth. It's the truth. And, he didn't say that mainstream media, of course, back to that propaganda again, Tom, just like what you were saying, they were trying to twist it like he admitted to assaulting a woman. He didn't. He admitted he made a pass on a woman. She didn't go with that pass because she was a married woman. And then when you listen to the audio, you can tell that what he's talking about is the same type of females that always, they're kind of like these little cliques, groupies, like you will, that always go after the stars or go after the
Yep, never done that once in my life.
So you know what I'm talking about. I'm trying to. They go after rock stars and different things like that, and that's what he was referring to. Now, am I saying it's? You know what? I'm not offended by it. I'm going to tell you, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not at all. And I'm going to tell you something else that's hilarious. Now, I'm going to tell you, mainstream media will never pull this up, but I'm getting ready to make everybody smile and laugh because. And this is before I pull up the debate thing, because Hillary Clinton, of course, thought during the debate that she was going to use this to completely destroy Donald Trump. Okay? This was her thing. DNC thought they had this in the bag. So Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump played things smart. He not only played things smart, he annihilated mainstream media. He sucker punched mainstream media in the face. Now, let me tell you what he did, and then I'm going to give you a really neat and interesting couple of clips to listen to because we're going to do those fact checkings, okay? But what happened was Donald Trump told the media that he was going to have a pre-debate he was going to hold a pre-debate press conference. Okay. So the mainstream media all swarmed there because, they've got to get that story. Guess who was in the press conference when they got there?
Oh, who?
4 rape victims, 3 rape victims of Bill Clinton. And
I saw it.
And the lady that was the 12-year-old that Hillary Clinton personally attacked. Now, let me make this clear. Individuals with mainstream media, they want to go, but Bill Clinton's not running for president. You're absolutely right. He is not running for president. However, Hillary
the woman
Clinton,
is that tried to destroy the women.
Thank you. Hillary Clinton covered for Bill Clinton's actions. She not only covered for Bill Clinton's actions, she threatened these individuals. Then on top of that, let's get back to the lady who was the 12-year-old. Yes, no matter what you are accused of, you have a right to due process. I agree with that part. So with her being the attorney that was representing the guy, that was not the problem. The problem was afterwards, she was caught on audio laughing and making fun of and admitting that she knew the man was guilty, and she laughed about it. Now, that's not acceptable. I don't care who you are.
That's just evil.
Right. Expressing and or doing your job and representing somebody is one thing, but when you laugh about it and you mock it and you make it funny, that's when it comes into character assassination.
What do you expect from the de factoites?
Right. Well, here's one better. So in the debate, Hillary Clinton wants to say, well, the whole reason, basically, I guess the only thing she can come up with is the whole reason Donald Trump shouldn't be in the presidency is because he said that P word, right?
Right.
Okay. So why don't we, if you could play the very last video,
clip.
And yes, the very last clip that I just shared. Now, here's the kicker to our audience. And this is to the liberals out there, if you're listening, and this is to the trolls that love President Obama. Because as it stands right now, if you don't think that Trump can be president because of him speaking that way, then I guess you need to take your president out, because this is out of President Obama's mouth. Would you please play that clip?
Yeah, another guy said, but I tell you what, you won't see me moving to no African jungle anytime soon. Or some goddamn desert somewhere sitting on a carpet with a bunch of Arabs. No, sir. And you won't see me stop eating no ribs either. You gotta have them ribs. And pussy too. Don't Malcolm talk about no pussy? Now you know that ain't gonna work.
And there you have it. He was reading before he was president, and he was reading out of something he wrote. Just saying, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Now let's do some fact checking. We'll
do that as soon as we get back after a few words from our sponsors. We'll be right back, folks. Resurrect Republic Radio broadcast. Gotta have some ribs, man.
Gotta have some ribs in that. You know what?
Here in the land of the not so free. Interested in photo ops.
Are you still looking for that one iodine that you can really trust? A medical doctor endorsed product that is backed by honest research and true integrative science? Then search no further. Go to NutriMedical.com for Dr. Bill Deagle's Nutriodine, proven time and time again to be the very best iodine available for you. Nutriodine is the only Tesla-activated monatomic plasma iodine in the world. It optimizes mitochondrial function and generation of new mitochondria, from totally neutralizing the venom from a desert recluse spider bite in Southern California to eliminating malaria parasites reported by medical missionaries in Central India. Dr. Bill's Nutriodine is simply the most powerful healing formula there is. Nutriodine clears the body of all known pathogens, restores it to an alkaline state, and even promotes stem cell regeneration. Order Dr. Bill's Nutriodine today at 888-212-8871 or visit us online at NutriMedical.com.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
There was a mighty nation, blessed above all of creation. It was a rare and precious pearl, conceived in faith and liberty, home of the brave, land of the free. It was the envy of the world. But this shining city on a hill has turned from the Creator's will.
Welcome back. Resurrect Republic, Truth Radio broadcast on the Republic Broadcasting Network. I'm Lacovara, Stewart, and I'm joined by Lorri Anderson. Lorri, you were about to give us some facts.
Oh, some fact checking, yes, but we have to make sure that we line this up so everybody understands. So, of course, it goes back with the debate, and Hillary Clinton, of course, quoted that she wanted everybody to fact check. So, I had to take it upon myself since I already knew this answers. So, first of all, let me go ahead and play play LV1, the clip, and then that way everybody will know what we are fact checking. Would you please roll that?
Number 2, Michelle Obama. I've gotten to see the commercials that they did on you. And I've gotten to see some of the most vicious commercials I've ever seen of Michelle Obama talking about you, Hillary. So you talk about friend. Go back and take a look at those commercials. A race where you lost, fair and square, unlike the Bernie Sanders race where you won, but not fair and square, in my opinion. And all you have to do is take a look at WikiLeaks and just see what they said about Bernie Sanders and see what Deborah Wasserman Schultz had in mind, because Bernie Sanders, between superdelegates and Deborah Wasserman Schultz, he never had a chance. And I was so surprised to see him sign on with the devil. But when you talk about apology, I think the one that you should really be apologizing for, and the thing that you should be apologizing for, are the 33,000 emails that you deleted and that you acid washed. And then the 2 boxes of emails and other things last week that were taken from an office and are now missing. And I'll tell you what, I didn't think I'd say this, but I'm going to say it. And I hate to say it. But if I win, I am going to instruct my Attorney General to get a special prosecutor to look into your situation, because there has never been so many lies, so much deception. There has never been anything like it. And we're going to have a special prosecutor. When I speak, I go out and speak. The people of this country are furious. In my opinion, the people that have been long-term workers at the FBI are furious. There has never been anything like this, where emails and you get a subpoena. You get a subpoena, and after getting the subpoena, you delete 33,000 emails. And then you acid wash them, or bleach them, as you would say, a very expensive process. So we're going to get a special prosecutor, and we're going to look into it, because you know what? People have been, their lives have been destroyed for doing 1/5 of what you've done. And it's a disgrace. And honestly, you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Secretary Clinton, I want to follow up on that. I'm going to let you talk about email.
Because everything you just said is absolutely false, but I'm not surprised.
Don't you love it?
In the first debate,
and the audience needs to calm down here.
I told people that it would be impossible to be fact-checking Donald all the time. I'd never get to talk about anything I want to do and how we're going to really make lives better for people. So, once again, go to HillaryClinton.com. We have literally Trump. You can fact check him in real time. Last time at the first debate, we had millions of people
off of my website.
fact checking. So I expect we'll have millions more fact checking because it is. It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
Bam!
Wow!
Is that awesome or what?
Wow! Talk about a bitch slap. Sorry.
Okay, so you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna do what Hillary said. Let's do some fact checking. Are you cool with that?
I'm cool with that. But are we gonna be using the Hillary Clinton website?
Oh no. Let's fact check with let's see. How about LV4? Can we play that clip? Okay, this is Trey Gowdy, and this is in 7/7 of 2016. Go ahead.
Mr. Gowdy for 5 minutes.
Good morning, Director Comey. Secretary Clinton said she never sent or received any classified information over her private email. Was that true?
Our investigation found that there was classified information sent.
So it was not true?
Right. That's what I said.
Okay. Well, I'm looking for a little shorter answer, so you and I are not here quite as long. Secretary Clinton said there was nothing marked classified on her emails either sent or received. Was that true?
That's not true. There were a small number of portion markings on, I think, 3 of the documents.
Secretary Clinton said, I did not email any classified material to anyone on my email. There is no classified material. Was that true?
There was classified material emailed.
Secretary Clinton said she used just one device. Was that true?
She used multiple devices during the 4 years of her term as Secretary of State.
Secretary Clinton said all work-related emails were returned to the State Department. Was that true?
No, we found work-related emails, thousands, that were not returned.
Secretary Clinton said neither she nor anyone else deleted work-related emails from her personal account. Was that true?
That's a harder one to answer. We found traces of work-related emails on devices or in Slack space, whether they were deleted or whether when a server was changed out, something happened to them. There's no doubt that there were work-related emails that were removed electronically from the email system.
Secretary Clinton said her lawyers read every one of the emails and were overly inclusive. Did her lawyers read the email content individually?
No.
By the way, which
in the
were
interest of time, and because I have a plane to catch tomorrow afternoon, I'm not going to go through any more of the false statements, but I am going to ask you to put on your old hat. False exculpatory statements, they are used for what?
Well, either for a substantive prosecution or for evidence of intent in a criminal prosecution.
Exactly. Intent and consciousness of guilt, right? Is that right?
Right.
Consciousness of guilt and intent. In your old job, you would prove intent, as you just referenced, by showing the jury evidence of a complex scheme that was designed for the very purpose of concealing the public record. And you would be arguing, in addition to concealment, the destruction that you and I just talked about, or certainly the failure to preserve. You would argue all of that under the heading of intent. You would also be arguing the pervasiveness of the scheme, when it started, when it ended, and the number of emails, whether they were originally classified or up-classified. You would argue all of that under the heading of intent. You would also probably, under common scheme or plan, argue the burn bags of daily calendar entries or the missing daily calendar entries as a common scheme or plan to conceal. 2 days ago, Director, you said a reasonable person in her position should have known a private email was no place to send and receive classified information. You're right. An average person does know not to do that. This is no average person. This is a former First Lady, a former United States Senator, and a former Secretary of State that the President now contends is the most competent, qualified person to be president since Jefferson. He didn't say that in 2008, but he says it now. She affirmatively rejected efforts to give her a state.gov account. She kept these private emails for almost 2 years and only turned them over to Congress because we found out she had a private email account. So you have a rogue email system set up before she took the oath of office, thousands of what we now know to be classified emails, some of which were classified at the time. One of her more frequent email comrades was in fact hacked, and you don't know whether or not she was. And this scheme took place over a long period of time and resulted in the destruction of public records. And yet you say there is insufficient evidence of intent. You say she was extremely careless, but not intentionally so. You and I both know intent is really difficult to prove. Very rarely do defendants announce, on this date, I intend to break this criminal code section. Just to put everyone on notice, I am going to break the law on this date. It never happens that way. You have to do it with circumstantial evidence. Or if you're Congress and you realize how difficult it is to prove specific intent, you will formulate a statute that allows for gross negligence. My time is out, but this is really important. You mentioned there's no precedent for criminal prosecution. My fear is there still isn't. There's nothing to keep a future Secretary of State or President.
So we've just fact-checked Hillary on her lies about the emails. So let's fact-check her about Michelle Obama, her best buddy. Let's see what Michelle Obama had to say about her. Can we please play the clip, LV3?
Campaigning in Chicago, Michelle Obama today told women why her husband should be the next president of the United States.
One of the important aspects of this race is role modeling what good families should look like. And my view is that if you can't run your own house, you certainly can't run the White House. Can't do it.
Oops.
Michelle Obama returned to her South Side roots to host a Women for Obama event in the Grand Ballroom on Cottage Grove.
Okay, you can stop that one. So let's see, and this is coming out of the mouth of Michelle Obama, right? So this is also, it's amazing what you find. Can we please, let's see what President Obama says about Miss Clinton. Could you please play that one?
Come on.
Keep them coming.
When Hillary Clinton says I'm out of touch, I just have to remind people of the track record. All right? So now this is Senator Clinton. This is the same person who has taken more money from lobbyists than any other candidate, Democratic or Republican. Taking more money from drug company lobbyists and insurance company lobbyists, and she's saying, I'm out of touch? Who do you think is out of touch? This is the same person who took money from financial folks on Wall Street and then voted for a bankruptcy bill that makes it harder for folks right here in Pennsylvania to get a fair shake. Who do you think is out of touch? This is the same person who spent a decade with her husband campaigning for NAFTA and now goes around saying how she was opposed to NAFTA.
Oops, doesn't that sound like TPP?
Does that sound like she's in touch with Pennsylvania? Does that sound like she's in touch with you? This is the same person who says she's voting for the Colombia trade deal. Turns out that her top advisor, her top strategist, was working for the Colombian government to get the bill passed.
Oops.
Whoa. Does that sound like she's in touch with you?
Gotta love that pay to play. Thank you, Mr. Obama, for at one point being honest. Now,
ouch.
Yeah. So her thing up there about saying that Donald was lying about NAFTA, well, oops, there we go again. And exposing more of her pay to play, or what would we call that? A RICO thing, wouldn't we?
Oh yeah. I'd say so.
Yeah. So I'm going to go into a little more detail because we love doing our fact checking. We've got to do our fact checking, don't you think so?
Oh,
John?
I love you, Lorri.
Okay, well, this kind of relates to this because Hillary wants to play and claim that she is so pro-immigrant. So first, I need to make people aware. October 6th, New York Times put out that the Obama administration is quietly delaying thousands of deportation cases. I know you're shocked. However, we do know that Hillary is for her open borders, so this is going to tie in with, I'm going to let Hillary speak for herself. The Obama administration is delaying deportation proceedings for recent immigrants in cities across the United States, allowing more than 56,000 of those who fled Central America since 2014 to remain in the country legally for several more years. The shift, described in interviews with immigration lawyers, federal officials, and current and former judges, has been occurring without public attention for months. It amounts to an unannounced departure from the administration's widely publicized pronouncements that cases tied to the so-called surge of 2014 would be rushed through the immigration courts in an effort to deter more Central Americans from entering the United States illegally. The delayed cases are those of nearly half of the Central Americans who entered the United States as families since 2014, and close to a quarter of the total number of Central Americans who entered during that period, according to figures from the Justice Department. Now, I'm not going to keep going through and read more of this. It's a very long article. You can find it in the New York Times. The title of it is Obama Administration is Quietly Delaying Thousands of Deportation Cases. Why am I bringing all of this up? Well, I'm going to tell you why. ICE official blew the whistle, and it said, ICE official told Trump that the illegals are being allowed to vote, and that's why they're not deporting them. Now, that was reported on October the 7th on the Gateway Pundit. So, as we look at that, y'all can find that. I'm not gonna read that article, but you can find it on the Gateway Pundit. And the title of that is ICE official tells Trump illegals allowed to vote that won't deport criminals. And yes, there is video proof of this. So Hillary Clinton claims she's pro the amnesty, right? Well, let's let Hillary and Bill speak for themselves. Let's see what they really think about those immigrants. Could you please play LV5?
These are all areas in which Donald Trump and I profoundly disagree. Mexico is such an important problem on our doorstep. I voted numerous times when I was a senator to spend money to build a barrier to try to prevent illegal immigrants from coming in.
All Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers.
I am, adamantly against illegal immigrants. Certainly, we've got to do more at our borders, and people have to stop employing illegal immigrants. Come up to Westchester, go to Suffolk and Nassau counties, stand in the street corners in Brooklyn or the Bronx. You're going to see loads of people waiting to get picked up to go do yard work and construction work and domestic.
Mexican government's policies are pushing migration north across our border.
To go do yard work.
Seeing these thousands of children come across, shunted off into makeshift shelters.
It's horrible.
Hard choice. Let them stay in the United States or send them back.
Well, 2 quick points. One, the numbers are increasing dramatically. And the main reason I believe why that's happening is that the violence in certain of those Central American countries is increasing dramatically. And there is not sufficient law enforcement or will on the part of the governments of those countries to try to deal with this exponential increase in violence, drug trafficking, the drug cartels, and many children are fleeing from that violence.
Should they be able to stay here? It's safer.
It may be safer, but that's not the answer. I do not.
So should they be sent back?
We have children 5 and 6 years old who have come up from Central America. We need to do more to provide border security in southern Mexico.
They should be sent back now.
Well, they should be sent back, but we have to send a clear message. Just because your child gets across the border, that doesn't mean the child gets.
I am adamantly against illegal immigrants.
That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more, by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before.
Secure our borders with technology, personnel, physical barriers.
By cracking down on illegal hiring, by barring welfare benefits to illegal aliens. We are increasing border controls by 50%. We are increasing inspections to prevent the hiring of illegal immigrants. And tonight I announce I will sign an executive order to deny federal contracts to businesses that hire illegal immigrants.
If they've committed transgressions of whatever kind, they should be obviously deported.
Let me be very clear about this. We are still a nation of immigrants. We should be proud of it. We should honor every legal immigrant here working hard to be a good citizen, working hard to become a new citizen. But we are also a nation of laws.
Should be obviously deported.
Well. You know, I just love that fact checking. So I would say, Tom, now maybe I'm wrong. Point out if I'm wrong. But, you know, when that WikiLeaks came out in October the 7th, it was hitting everywhere, including Washington Times, Daily Caller, you name it. There was an email that said you need a public and a private position on every issue. And you can keep going, and you can keep going with this with Hillary Clinton. During a private 2013 speech to a national multifamily housing council, Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton emphasized the importance of holding two positions on political issues, a public one and a private one. Clinton's speech to the NMHC, a trade organization representing apartment building owners and developers, was one of many private speeches she gave, which she refused to release the transcripts of, despite heavy pressure from Senator Bernie Sanders and the Republican nominee Donald Trump. Excerpts from those speeches were released on Friday as part of a larger leak of over 2,000 emails to the Clinton campaign manager John Podesta. Don't you love this man? He's such a wealth of knowledge. In the speech, Clinton talked about how the horse trading of politics looks bad to the public, necessitating the creation of a separate public position that doesn't reflect one's actual views. You just have to sort of figure out how to balance the public and the private efforts that are necessary to be successful politically. And that's not just a comment about today. That's a quote, what Clinton said. Here's another quote. Politics is like sausage being made. It is unsavory. It has always been that way. But we usually end up where we need to be. But if everybody's watching, you know, all of the backroom discussions and the deals, you know, then people get a little nervous, to say the least. So you need both public and a private position, unquote. So, you know, what do you think, Tom? What do you think her, you know? We do know that at one point she was claiming she was pro-life, and there was some news that came out about that.
She has claimed that she has been everything but a little green alien. Right,
exactly. Oh, and I have another thing for you. As you know, they're doing a lot of the propaganda trying to push us into World War III with Russia and in Syria and everything else. So we'll get on that topic a little bit, but as you know, they're trying to make the American people and our military believe that they are going over there. It would be justifiable. Let me tell you, Uniform Code of Military Justice, you have a duty to disobey that, period. Number one, we are there unlawfully. Number two, we are there protecting terrorists. That is a fact. It is a well-known fact. If you don't know it by now, something is wrong and you have blinders on. I love my veterans. I love my active military. However, I do not love the corruption and what is really, truly going on. It has now been exposed that over in El Paso, where they're talking about the citizens being killed because of the strikes, the citizens are actually not there because they want to be. Those citizens that don't have family members have been going over to the side of the government, Assad, for protection, and they have been getting it. But a lot of them are being held hostage there by the terrorists that, yes, our government is arming, funding, and training. So are you really willing to go to World War III to protect terrorists? That's the question. Are you willing to go to World War III? to protect terrorists? That's the question. What do you think, Tom? Don't you think that's the simple question?
Yep, I sure do. Absolutely do.
And it is appalling and it's disgusting. And I get so tired of hearing their lies and their, I get tired of hearing it called propaganda. I'm going to be honest with you.
But that makes us conspiracy theorists.
Well, it's out of their own mouth. All you have to do is listen. And then, oh my gosh, in the debate, Hillary Clinton wanted to pull this message up about this 4-year-old that was killed during the strike. How about that 12-year-old that was beheaded by your rebels that you funded, Hillary?
La, 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 la.
And the State Department, when they were questioned about it, they were questioned by a reporter about it. The reporter said, what is it going to take for you not to fund these people?
You'd have to hit her upside the head with a board or something. She's either so dense or just following the CFR agenda. It makes me sick.
That's the only thing I really, really wish that Donald Trump had fired back with, in that if he had, he'd have destroyed her even more, because she was pulling up that 4-year-old. They're trying to make Russia and Assad look bad for killing terrorists. And that's the fact of the matter. They're killing terrorists. Yep. Those individuals are not the Syrian citizens. It is not a civil war. It is an invasion. Our government is in there unlawfully and illegally. There's been no act of Congress. We haven't been at war since World War II. There's been no war declared. They used the AUMF, which is the authorization of use of military force, which is really supposed to only be for a couple of months. And it had to do with 9/11, and Syria has nothing to do with 9/11, just saying. So they're not only acting unlawfully, they are arming, aiding, and abetting our enemy. So the real question is, I'm wondering, are people really going to fact check, or are they just going to accept because she is a she, right? That, we must have her as president. Because if so, and these individuals who want to tout Martin Luther King Jr., don't tout him, because he was not about the content or the color of the skin, nor was he about the sex. He was about the individual. He was about the content of character.
Hold on. We're talking about Martin Luther King, right?
Martin Luther King Jr.
Oh, okay. All right.
Jr.
Well,
he was also against the military-industrial complex.
Martin Luther King was, I hate to say it, but he was also seen and known to be commiserating with communists. I hate to say it.
Are you talking about senior, or are you talking about junior?
Piece through pieces. Well, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. I mean, I don't know. I just broke my heart out.
We'll get back with you right after a break from our sponsors.
It makes sense, though. We'll be back. Resurrect the Republic, Truth Radio broadcast.
Welcome to the place of the left's hypocrisy. Little pink houses for you and me. Welcome to the face.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
As a regular listener to Republic Broadcasting, you certainly understand the times and circumstances that we are living in. You certainly understand that the good times are over, and you certainly understand what we are heading for. Though we do not know what exactly is going to happen, we must assume that it's going to be a disaster. Are you prepared for that mess? Go to www.bugoutpanama.net and get the necessary information on our growing community of awake and prepared individuals, just like you. At www.bugoutpanama.net, you will learn how we are preparing on our farm, Finca Baiano, for what is coming. Emigrate while you still can to our village, where survival is of the utmost importance. Prepare, don't despair. at www.bugoutpanama.net.
Angioprim can unclog blocked arteries and improve blood flow in all parts of your body. Angioprim is oral chelation. Easy, simple, liquid oral chelation. You take it with juice before breakfast and forget about it. Angioprim works fast, unlike old-fashioned chelation that takes hours. Just log on to angioprim.com. That's Angioprim, ANGIOPRIM, angioprim.com. Angioprim users say they have more energy, more strength, more endurance. Increased circulation and blood flow will make all your body parts work better. Log on to angioprim.com to get more information on how you can get started and start feeling better, having fun, and doing more again. Lots more. Talk to a trained Angioprim consultant. Call Angioprim toll-free at 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221. Or log on for complete information. Angioprim.com. That's Angioprim.com. Find out how Angioprim can work for you. Get the facts about Angioprim at Angioprim.com.
Hi, my name is Chris. Since the 1970s, I have been actively making products available that support good health. What makes my juices flow is helping mankind get healthy. Today, I'm going to tell you about a product that will help your juices to flow. I am excited to recommend Dr. Miller's Holy Tea to you. Even if we are eating a clean diet, these impurities are entering our bodies. Holy Tea moves these poisons that are creating havoc with our health out of our bowels. It works on the whole digestive system. The 5 tasty herbs are combined to provide an amazing detoxifying and healing tea that will rid your body of the pollutants and soothe your digestive tract, and in some cases, help you lose weight. It is critical for our health to move all of the environmental toxins from our bodies. The Holy Tea can do that. As a hydrocolon therapist, remember, with every BM, you're supporting RBN. www.holytea.org. 800-326-2001.
Extendivite is more than just a heart tonic. Most basic diseases are caused by yeast in the gut and metals in the liver, and we all have a bit of both. The garlic in Extendivite has a yeast-killing effect in the gut while also helping the sulfur enzyme in the liver get rid of the metals. Extendivite just may improve your overall health. Products like Extendivite are the only way we are going to get our society healthy. And if you're waiting for the government and pharmaceutical care to solve your health problems, you're going to have a long, disappointing wait, I think. Extendivite is a complete formula for extended life in the new millennium. 80 can be the new 60. Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite. Mother of the moon, which filled my sails, flows the sea of years. With no provisions, but in open ways, Lord, the straits of fear.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome back. Resurrect the Republic Truth Media broadcast on RBN. I am so glad to have you with us tonight. My name is Lorri Anderson, and I am joined with host Tom Lacovara Stewart. So what we're doing is we are fact-checking Mrs. Clinton, and we feel like it is imperative. And our last discussion right before the break, we were discussing
somebody has to prosecute her.
Well, you know, and this would probably be why they shut me down earlier, but that's okay. Gotta love them, and pray for them anyway.
Court of public opinion.
In the court of public opinion. So what we're going to do is we were just discussing our military, and I'm proud of our military. I love our military. I love our veterans. I do not love the corruption that's going on. I do not love the invasion. I do not love that they are helping terrorists, which is treason, by the way. If you look it up in U.S. Code, it is treason. So let's see exactly what the State Department had to say about the beheading, because, and the reason I'm bringing this up in the debate, Hillary Clinton wanted to tout the 4-year-old child that got killed in El Paso, and it was due to the bombing, Russia bombing, and there they're bombing the terrorists. They really are. But the terrorists are holding hostages. They are using civilians as human shields. And the ones that are not leaving by sneaking out is because they have larger family, and they're scared that their family is going to be massacred by these terrorists if they go. So it's a really horrendous situation. However, we're going to fact check Miss Clinton, because I really wish Donald Trump had said this. The State Department, if you don't remember, we have those quote unquote rebels that Miss Clinton admittedly in the debate supports. And she wants to bombard Russia and Assad and make them and paint them out to be, the bad guys, because they're killing terrorists that are slaughtering people by the thousands. These people eat the hearts out of individuals who have just been killed. Okay, that is not a joke. It was on live video. It was seen, and they bragged about it. So understand what kind of monsters our government is supporting. So the question before we got to that was, is our military going to allow a World War III to protect terrorists, or are they going to follow the UCMJ because it is unlawful orders and stand down? And I'm asking that for not only the people of America, but I'm asking that for the globe. Because no matter how you look at things, Syria's right. Russia's right on this. And the corrupt people within our government are wrong, and all they care about is the resources, the money, and the control and the power. So let's bring in, and I'm going to show you exactly the individuals that Hillary Clinton admitted in the debate that she supports fully. Can you please play the very last clip that I sent to you?
Please. The Russian Ministry of Defense says that in Aleppo there was recently a chemical weapons attack, and that it was conducted by the Harakat Nur al-Zenki organization, which is an opposition group that has received support from the United States. Is the United States still supporting this organization?
So unaware of that allegation. The only thing I'm aware of is the alleged chemical weapons attack on the town of Resurrect. I think we're talking about separate incidents. If I'm correct, I don't know.
I'm referring to something in Aleppo.
You're talking about something in Aleppo. So haven't seen those reports. Obviously, as we said with the incident that took place, I think 2 days ago, allegedly, there were reports of chemical weapons being used in another town. But the same would hold true with this. Is obviously we condemn strongly the use of any chemical weapons, and any credible allegations of their use in Syria will investigate. And I believe it's the purview of the OPCW that would carry out such an investigation. As to your follow-on question about this group, I don't have in front of me that we actually fund them. I mean, you're saying we provide them with assistance?
Yes, as part of the so-called moderate opposition.
Yeah. I don't know what.
Now, the group
again,
also.
I haven't seen the allegations yet, so I think it's too early for me to A, make that assessment, and B, make that connection.
It's been said that the State Department is also investigating allegations. I mean, there's a video of this group beheading a 10-year-old Palestinian boy.
Yeah, I'm aware
how
of
are
that.
those investigations going? Has there been any result?
Yeah, so we did talk about that. We were looking into that incident. Obviously, we condemned if it were true. I know that the group itself said that they had also made some arrests and then set up a commission of inquiry into the incident. I don't have any updates at this point in time, but I can certainly check and get back to you.
So what does a rebel group in Syria have to do to not receive U.S. funds any longer? What is the line that they must cross? What kind of controversial incident must take place for a group to stop receiving U.S. funds?
Well, first of all, there's a lot of vetting of the Syrian moderate opposition that has already taken place. And it's not just by the U.S., but it's by all the members of the ISSG and, frankly, the UN. And it was established.
Of course it's
that
by the UN.
Al-Nusra, as well
It's
as
right in there.
Daesh or ISIL, were considered to be, by all members and by the UN, to be terrorist organizations. I think, again, these are not easy processes. And one incident here and there would not necessarily make you a terrorist group. Now, let me.
So beheading
be
a
very
child
clear
wouldn't make
that
you
we
a
don't
terrorist,
condone
no.
any of the activities that you just cited, possible use of chemical weapons, possible beheading of a young child, any human rights abuses, any of those things would give us serious cause for concern.
Right, none of that would make you a terrorist.
Where we are in the broader geopolitical or political situation in Syria is, and one of the ongoing discussions that we've been having with Russia, is how do we clearly delineate between these known terrorist groups, Nusra and Daesh, and the moderate opposition.
Get out of their
and how do we have a clear
country.
understanding of who is where, so that we can
Funding, arming, and training
longer
them.
game here, get back in place a cessation of hostilities that is credible, that can also then jumpstart the political process.
So it sounds to me like what you're saying is that even if these allegations are true, there's still a chance that the United States would continue supporting these groups. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not making any, I'm not frankly answering any hypotheticals. We just don't know at this point. As I said, we would regard any of the acts that you mentioned or cited, and again, they are just allegations at this point. We take them very seriously and look into them and investigate them.
They're not a red line
Again,
and U.S. support.
So for a terrorist organization, there are fundamental actions, one of which is an intention to carry out terrorist attacks, both within Syria, but as well as on the West. Some of these groups, as I said, Nusra and Al-Qaeda, Al-Qaeda is Al-Nusra, they're one and the same, and Daesh have expressed and indeed acted on these intentions. But as to the other members of the moderate Syrian opposition, look, we're constantly evaluating their behavior, and frankly, for them to be a member of the moderate Syrian opposition and to be part of the cessation of hostilities and the Syrian democratic forces, it requires that they meet the standards. And those standards are respect for human rights and adherence to a cessation of hostilities.
Okay, you can
Does that
stop.
include not using chemical weapons? Is that?
You get the point. You get the point. So they claim that they vet him. He just admitted that that al-Nusra is Al-Qaeda. Oops, that must have been a slip. That was the U.S. State Department. So on top of that, let's vet a little bit deeper, because Miss Hillary Clinton claims, first of all, she's pro-children. She claims she's pro-women. We all know she took backdoor funds from Saudi Arabia, correct? We also know that after she took those backdoor funds from Saudi Arabia to the Clinton Foundation, there was a cute little deal that went on, and Saudi Arabia got billions in military weaponry, okay? And so let me show you a State Department clip of what's going on with Saudi Arabia and what they're doing with those weapons. Let's see how much that Hillary Clinton really cares about the lives of civilians and innocent women and children. Could you please play that clip?
No. There are reports out of Yemen that 14 civilians were killed due to Saudi-led airstrikes. Is the State Department concerned about the increase in civilian casualties in Yemen?
Okay, so we do all urge all sides to halt all offensive military actions, including in particular the area I believe you're speaking about on the Saudi-Yemeni border in Taiz and in the areas between Mareb and the capital. Of course, we're very concerned.
And then a follow-up, is there any concern by the State Department that weapons that may have been part of a U.S.-Saudi deal in the past, maybe dating back to when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, is there any concern that those weapons are being used when the civilian casualties are happening?
You know, we've actually spoken about end use of weapons before from this podium. You know, speaking specifically on Yemen now, what we're talking about is we're urging all sides to refrain from these offensive military actions. In terms of end use conversations, you know, they actually come when we do weapon transfers.
So there's no concern particularly?
I think our concerns are always on civilian casualties, and our concerns are especially on the situation in Yemen, which is at a very precarious place right now.
Is there not going to be a halt in any of the tranches of bombs to Saudi Arabia?
You know, this is, as you guys know, you know, we have, when we do arms shipments, we do announce those. Those are in, you know, as required. You know, I don't have anything to announce on there. Nick? Yemen?
Yeah. You have expressed, not you only, from this podium, the concerns. It's not the first time the civilians have been killed in Yemen. Have you directly talked to Saudi Arabia? Have you reached out? Because from the Yemeni side, they are not going and killing civilians in Saudi Arabia. But it's the Saudi Arabians who are killing Yemeni
We're seeing actually
citizens.
all sides perpetuating violence against civilians
Have
in
you
Yemen.
talked to Saudi Arabia about it?
We have had conversations with our partners on our concern. We've said this publicly. We've said this privately.
No, not the partners. Saudi Arabia, I was specifically asking.
We call on all sides. We've had conversations with our partners on that.
Do we have any dates the last time you spoke?
I have no conversations to read out to Gender.
On South Korea?
Yeah.
So a month ago, John Kirby said from the podium that the U.S. had reached out to China to offer details about the system that it was going to install, and to his knowledge, the Chinese had not responded yet. Since then, has China responded, and have there been discussions with China about THAAD placement?
Yeah, I have no conversations to read out on that, Nick. Let me check, and if we have something, I'll get back to you.
Elizabeth?
Wait, are we staying on South Korea?
Can we go back to Saudi Arabia and Yemen?
Of course.
There is a news saying that the State Department has approved a $1 billion sale of 153 General Dynamics M1A2S Abrams, thanks to Saudi Arabia. Do you have anything on this?
I do, as we are required to announce these. On August 8th, the department approved notification to Congress of a proposed transfer of up to 115 M1A27 Saudi Abram main battle tanks and related equipment, valued at up to $1.15 billion under the Foreign Military Sales Program.
Thank you.
Yep.
Have there been any sort of conversations between the U.S. State Department and the Saudis to avoid civilian casualties, as more weapons deals are in the talks? Is the State Department concerned that U.S. weapons that have been sent to Saudi Arabia will take part in the killing of civilians?
So what I would say is we regularly talk to our partners and our allies around the world. Civilian casualties are obviously of grave concern to us.
So as you can see, even the U.S. State Department scrubs and tries to cover for Hillary Clinton's deals. You could see she tried to get that name out of there, but it's out there. And it's anybody who thinks and that this woman who can't even she claimed, and I know you remember this, she claimed that she didn't know that a C in brackets meant classified. Well, first of all, you know that's a lie, because they have different servers. They had to literally physically take it off the classified system and put it on the unclassified system. And some of those classified things originated from her. Okay?
That is the lamest excuse, by the way, I've ever heard anyway.
It is. And then on top of that, the idea that this female could even be in the presidency, she can't handle a private email server. She can't even use Gmail is more secure. It was stated that Gmail was more secure than her
we're supposed to hand her the launch codes, right?
And we're supposed to hand her the launch codes. And so the reality is do some fact checking, everybody, and I hope you share this far and wide, because you've heard the fact checking out of her own mouth. You've heard the fact checking out of President Obama's mouth. You've heard the fact checking out of First Lady Michelle Obama's mouth. And she is right. If you can't handle your own house and keep your own house in order, you sure cannot run the White House. And it was amazing to me that, and y'all remember, we covered this, that Rand Paul stood up on the floor against, they were getting ready to give $1.7 billion more in arms to Saudi Arabia just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, the United States is being pimped out like a whore, worse than her own husband is.
Right. And then, she is just, I cannot believe that anyone, no matter whether they're Republican, Democrat, Independent, it doesn't matter. Republican and Democrat at this point is two sides of the same coin.
Semantics.
It's an illusion of choice. It really, truly is.
Literally the de facto unlawful jurisdiction.
Right. Now, I'm going to share something that, Tom, you don't even know that I have. So I'm getting ready to I think this would be a good way to end the show tonight.
Cool.
We know about Benghazi, but this is going to really break down, and I'm doing this for our military people because I want them to understand that Syria is a coup. We are in there illegally and unlawfully. And what I'm going to do, Mike, if you've got that, I sent you the link. This is Lindsey Graham. Okay? And he is speaking. Pay close attention to what Mr. Graham has to say.
Wonder if they went to Congress.
Wait till you see this.
Was in Congress.
In case you haven't. This is amazing. This is our government, or anal warts within our government, admitting and making others admit that we are at this very moment pulling coups, changing people's lives, murdering, covering things up, warmongering, and it's all admitted. It's all admitted. Watch this.
This was on C-SPAN,
Senator Graham. By the way. Thank you to my colleagues for letting me jump ahead. I appreciate it very, very much. I want to see if I've got this right. We're going to train people inside of Syria to fight ISIL rather than training them outside of Syria. Equip them inside and train them inside, right? New strategy.
Yes, that's where they are.
Okay, so, count me in for trying to help. Do we still want to replace Assad?
Absolutely. I think
is that a goal of ours?
Yes, a transition from Assad to a government of Syria that is
General
inclusive and moderate and together. Absolutely.
Right, General Dunford. Is it smart to let Russia fight ISIL and we stay out of the fight?
Russia's not fighting ISIL, Senator.
But that wouldn't be a good idea to rely on Russia to fight ISIL for us.
Senator, I think we need to be engaged in advancing our own national interest. We have a national interest in dealing with ISIL, and we should be doing that.
Okay, here's the question.
We can do it more effectively. I'm not confident that Russia is effective at doing that.
I'm 1,000,000% with you.
What a crock.
Are we going to supply air support for the people we train to fight ISIL?
We are, Senator.
Do those same people want to take Assad down?
The ones that we are supporting right now are focused on ISIL. Senator.
Do they have a goal to take Assad down?
They are ISIL.
Senator, I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
Well, the ones we're supporting, I don't know because the folks.
Don't you think most people in Syria want two things? They want to fight, they want to destroy ISIL and get rid of Assad, the person who's killed 250,000 of their family? Is that really a mystery?
No, it's not.
It's not a mystery. Okay, is Russia going to fight for Assad?
Russia is fighting for Assad.
Will Iran fight for Assad?
They are doing that, Senator.
Will Hezbollah fight for Assad?
They are doing that.
When the people we train to fight ISIL turn on Assad, which they surely will, are we going to fight with them to replace Assad?
I can't answer that question, Senator.
Can you answer it, Secretary Carter?
Yeah, just to be clear, let's take the...
That day is coming.
YPG Kurds. Do
you see a scenario where the people in Syria don't take on a side?
The people that we are equipping are people who live in or come from ISIL-occupied territory, and
do they want to take a side down?
Defeating ISIL and
do they want to take a side down?
For the most part, they're focused on defeating.
Do they want to take a side? Have you asked them?
He's mad.
We know what their intent is, and it is to fight ISIL.
Come on.
They're fighting ISIL now.
You know as well as I do, both of you know, that the average Syrian not only wants to destroy ISIL, but they're intent on destroying Assad because he's killed 250,000 of them. And here's the question
and that's such a lie.
For this committee. How do we leverage Assad leaving when Russia's going to fight for him, Iran's going to fight for him, Hezbollah's fight for him, and we're not going to do a damn thing to help people take him down? And y'all both know that. So when Kerry goes over to Geneva, he is turning over Syria to the Russians and to the Iranians. Is there any credible military threat to Assad now that Russia, Iran, and Hezbollah is on his side? Do you see any credible military threat to take him down, General Dunford?
I think the balance of forces right now are in Assad's advantage.
Not his advantage. He is secure as the day is long. So this is what's happened, folks. This strategy is completely falling apart. Russia, Iran, and Hezbollah are going to fight for their guy, and we're not going to do a damn thing to help the people who want to change Syria for the better by getting rid of the dictator in Damascus. Do you see a scenario, Secretary Carter, where we would fight to support an effort to take Assad down, that we would fight alongside of people who want to take Assad down in Syria? Is that remotely possible?
Which are the terrorists?
Our approach to removing Assad has been to...
Does it have a military component?
It is principally a political effort in Syria.
So the answer is no.
Our military effort...
Are we going to fight with people who want to take Assad down? Are we going to provide them military help?
Our train and equip program...
The answer is no. The answer is no.
Supportive of people who fight
So let me
ISIL.
just end this. If I'm Assad, this is a good day for me, because the American government has just said, without saying it, that they're not going to fight to replace me. The Russians and the Iranians and Hezbollah, this is a really good day for them, because their guy has no military credible threat. So, now you tell me what kind of deal we're going to get, folks. I'm sure we'll get a really good deal with this construct. So what you've done, gentlemen, along with the president, is you've turned Syria over to Russia and Iran. You've told the people in Syria who've died by the hundreds of thousands, we're more worried about a political settlement than we are about.
So,
bingo.
With this, let's set Lindsey Graham straight, because we know I'm good at my fact checking. Lindsey Graham is lying. Assad didn't kill 250,000 of his civilians.
Yeah, I know.
The people that are over there that our government is helping are the terrorists, by the way. They're not fighting ISIL. They are ISIL. ISIL is ISIS, is Al-Qaeda, is Anwar al-Sharia. It's just a different faction on a different name, guys. Don't fall for that trick. So the point of the matter is, he's pissed because Iran. He's pissed because Russia. He's pissed because Hezbollah is helping to destroy the terrorists that are massacring their children and their women and their men. And with that, thank you for joining us tonight. I hope you share this broadcast. Visit us on resurrecttherepublic.com. Send a donation to help our independent efforts of continuing to cover the news for you all. And I hope you have a blessed and wonderful evening. As always, watch your backs and check your facts.
Good night.
I'm not interested in
Photo ops.